So today, we're diving into something pretty cool in the energy world. It's a brand new kind of nuclear fuel from a company called Lightbridge, and the promise here is huge, making nuclear power safer, cheaper, and a whole lot more powerful. So let's get into it and see what makes this stuff so different.
You know, it all really boils down to one massive question. As the world keeps growing, our appetite for energy is just exploding. So how on earth are we going to meet that demand, especially when we're all trying to do it without wrecking the climate?
And here's the scale of that challenge. Just look at that number. By 2050, global energy demand is set to jump by a staggering 41%. To give you a sense of what that means, the International Energy Agency figures that China, by itself, needs to add the equivalent of the entire US power grid by 2040. The numbers are just astronomical, and the need for powerful, clean energy is, well, it's right now.
And that kind of urgency, well, it's a huge driver for innovation, especially in the nuclear world. Which brings us right to our topic today, a totally new way of thinking. Not about the reactors, but about the very fuel that makes them go.
Look, we all know nuclear power is an absolute workhorse. It churns out massive amounts of clean energy, 24/7. But let's be honest, it's also faced some serious headwinds. You know the big three: safety concerns, the crazy high cost of building plants, and that nagging question of what to do with the waste. Any new tech that wants to succeed has to tackle these problems head-on.
Okay, so this is where you can really see the difference. On the left, that's your classic nuclear fuel. It's basically little ceramic pellets stacked like Pez candies inside a metal tube. But on the right, that's the Lightbridge fuel. It's a solid metal rod made from a uranium-zirconium alloy, and it has this really unique, twisted helical shape. That shape is self-spacing, which means you can get rid of these bulky grids that get in the way of water flow. And the biggest thing, because it's a solid metal, it conducts heat way better.
So what's the upshot of this new design? Well, ditching those grids means more water can flow around the fuel to cool it. That twisted shape also gives it 35% more surface area to get the heat out. And the bottom line is this: you can generate way more power while the fuel itself stays much, much cooler. And in the world of nuclear energy, that is an absolute game changer.
So let's dig into what that cooler fuel, more power thing really means. What are the actual concrete advantages you get from this new fuel? Let's start with safety, because this number says it all. The very center of a Lightbridge fuel rod runs over 1,000 degrees Celsius cooler than conventional fuel. That is a massive safety margin. It's so much cooler that the kind of dangerous hydrogen gas buildup that caused so many problems at Fukushima, well, it physically can't happen in the same kind of accident scenarios.
And that incredible efficiency, it translates directly into dollars and cents. Because the fuel gets rid of heat so well, you can push existing reactors harder. We're talking power increases of 10 to 17%. That's like getting a whole new power plant's worth of electricity without having to build one. And for brand new reactors designed around this fuel, you could be looking at a 30% power boost. That directly means cheaper, cleaner electricity.
So let's just recap the big wins here. First, better economics, because you're getting more juice from the same plant. Second, less waste, since you're squeezing more energy out of every single fuel rod. And third, a really big one for global security, the leftover stuff in the spent fuel is basically useless if someone wanted to try and make a weapon out of it. That's a huge non-proliferation benefit.
Now this all sounds amazing on paper, right? But turning a cool idea into a real physical thing, well, that's always the hardest part. So let's take a look at the actual tangible progress Lightbridge has been making to get this fuel out of the lab and into a reactor. You can really see the momentum building on this timeline. It all kicked off in a huge way in late 2022 with a major partnership with the Idaho National Laboratory. That's basically America's top nuclear R&D lab. By early 2025, they had physically created an 8-foot-long demonstration rod. And then, just a few months later, they had the actual enriched fuel samples made and ready to go for testing in a real research reactor. These aren't just ideas, these are real physical steps forward. And hey, don't just take my word for it. This quote from Dr. Jess Gethin at the Idaho National Lab really puts it all into perspective. He's making it clear that developing tech like this isn't just a business opportunity. It's a critical piece of the puzzle for hitting our climate goals. And when you have the country's top nuclear lab as your partner, that's some pretty powerful validation right there.
All right, so you've got the tech. But getting it approved, licensed, and actually used in a power plant, that means navigating a super complex world of regulations, politics, and finance. So what does that wider landscape look like for a new fuel like this?
Well, the good news for innovators is that the political climate is actually getting a lot more supportive. Take the ADVANCE Act, which became law in 2024. It's a big bipartisan push to update the nuclear regulators and basically tell them, hey, let's make it faster and more efficient to approve these new advanced nuclear technologies. This helps create a much clearer and more predictable path to market.
Now, since Lightbridge is a publicly traded company, all their business is out in the open. And to give you the full picture, it's worth taking a quick second to understand how things like executive stock sales work in a company like this.
So to make sure everything is transparent and to avoid any hint of insider trading, executives often use something called a Rule 10b5-1 plan. All it is a schedule set up months in advance to automatically sell a specific number of shares at a specific time. It's all prearranged.
For example, a recent filing shows an executive sold some shares using one of these plans. You can see it was set up 4 months before the sale happened. And importantly, even after that sale, the executive still holds the vast majority of their shares. This is just a really standard, routine part of how public companies operate. So let's bring it all back to that big picture. We've got a really clever fuel design that offers huge benefits for safety and cost. We've seen real, physical progress in the lab, and a political environment that's becoming more and more welcoming. Now, the road from here to the market is still a long one, for sure. But it leaves us with a really important question. As the entire world is desperately searching for clean, reliable power, could simply rethinking the fuel be the key to finally truly unlocking nuclear energy's incredible carbon-free promise?